Welcome back to the Here We Go podcast. Today, I am going to be talking about what we call a wide receiver room here in Pittsburgh. But I'll be honest with you, it does not resemble anything like a functional wide receiver room in the NFL. George Pickens is a guy who's growing up and becoming a star in this league. There's no doubt about that. And there's also no denying that we have nobody who can run with him right now. Guys not named George Pickens have a combined 198 yards receiving. That is everybody else in the wide receiver room combined. That is so unacceptable. The guy that is listed as our number 2 wide receiver, Van Jefferson, has 5 catches on the season through 4 games. What are we doing? We'd have been better off just to bring back Allen Robinson, if I'm being honest. At least that guy was a better blocker. I'm not too hard on Omar Khan because I think it's apparent that right now his 2 draft classes have been absolutely spectacular. For one, you got a 7th round pick starting on the offensive line and playing much better than I would expect a 7th round pick to play. We definitely need our starter back, but honestly, Anderson's been playing better than I expected. Herbig looks like a really good player. We're starting to see a little bit out of Washington in the receiving game. I mean, Darnell Washington is a guy who's dominating in the blocking game. But he's developing a little bit, and I mean a little bit, as a receiver. He's giving you a little more than I thought he'd be giving us at this point in the season. Matter of fact, I think he had more receiving yards than all of our receivers outside of George Pickens last game. And he had 30. It's easy to see what Omar Khan is building here right now. It's quite honestly, there is a plan, there's a path. I've talked about this being a rebuilding year, but heck, we're 3-1 right now. I mean, what more could you ask for from a team that most analysts had written off from the playoffs? It's still early in the season. A lot can go right, a lot can go wrong. So this isn't going to be an overreaction episode, but I think it's abundantly clear that you can see a pattern in this wide receiver room. They can't get open. And I've talked about this at least twice now, that the thing that most impresses me about Justin Fields, he's still finding a way to get these damn guys the ball, and they are not open. He's finding a way to make it work. Whether it's using more of the tight ends, whether it's running himself, he's starting to find ways just to make it work, and it's quite incredible. There was a chart that I saw, I think it was Saturday prior to the game Sunday, that talked about wide receiver separation through the first 3 weeks of the season. And the Steelers were buried on the bottom left corner of that chart, about as deep as you possibly could be buried and still see the entire logo of the team. I mean, there's less than no separation in this team right now. They cannot get open. And we're seeing a lot of zone, and they still can't find ways to get open. I at least thought that with Van Jefferson being a guy who seems to get open in zone coverage, we would see him play better against zone coverage defenses, but he's just been invisible. Calvin Austin, quite honestly, has been the better receiving threat of the two. And that's saying something, because I don't think many of us expected much out of Calvin Austin going into the season. It's abundantly clear that this team needs to find a way to make a deal at or before the trade deadline. We need some help for George Pickens. We need some help for Pat Freiermuth. We need some help for Justin Fields, most importantly. And we paid Pat Freiermuth, and so far he's not been the receiving target and the receiving threat that we were hoping for out of the season. I mean, this was going to be his year in an offense designed for tight ends to succeed. Teams quite clearly are just taking away George Pickens as much as they can and Pat Freiermuth as much as they can and living with whatever happens after that. Because they know outside of Calvin Austin getting free in the open field, there's no threat. There's just no threat. Darnell Washington is not a receiving threat. Yes, he's given us more this season than we expected. Yeah, I honestly want to see them dump a couple more of those short passes out there when he's one-on-one to see if he can continue to break tackles and make something out of nothing. Because right now, that guy's a more dynamic threat than our number 2 wide receiver, and it's crazy to say that. A blocking inline tight end is more dynamic than our wide receiver 2. Just think about that for a minute. What other team in the NFL is saying that? And maybe you guys don't see this the same way that I do. I don't know. It's very possible. But to me, I think every single player in that tight end room is better than our wide receiver group. And I think that's why when we got down early in this game, we stayed with 3 tight end sets so often. They don't trust us to get open on the wide receiver room. Tomlin and Arthur Smith did not open that field up. I think that was a mistake. I thought they should have went to a spread offense and just used Justin's natural gifts and his ability and just let him go. But as Tomlin likes to say, we don't live in our fears, and yet you did. You thought you were going to be more physical than a team that clearly came out with a different mindset than our team did. You can't will it into existence. If it's already down by 17 points and we're getting literally beat on, you can't just will it into existence. You got to change your game plan. But the reason I'm sure he was hesitant to change the game plan is just our wide receivers suck. I mean, Van Jefferson doesn't look like a guy with 4.39 speed. I'm sorry. Calvin Austin, he needs to be schemed open. He's dangerous when he has the ball in his hands. I mean, even he's developing even as a punt returner. I talked about that one yesterday. He's dangerous in the open field. There's no doubt about that. But he's not a guy who you can ask to go pick up a first down. He's not reliable. And if Justin doesn't put the ball on the money with him, he can't catch the ball away from his frame. I mean, it's still an issue. That did not change. It's just Justin's putting the ball on the money right now. I think maybe the least talked about point right now with this offense is that Justin Fields is throwing with some pretty pinpoint accuracy for a guy who's not known as like a pinpoint accurate passer. He's forced to. He has no open windows. Eventually, if you see him start making mistakes, it's because he's going to start forcing things. Now, I really thought through the first 3 games, Arthur Smith did a fantastic job of calling plays that not only fit the offense and our deficiencies, but it fit Justin Fields. I thought he did a great job of finding ways to make these things work. Last week, he just did not adjust. And I'm not sure if that's more of an indictment on him or more of an indictment on Tomlin or maybe both. Because they didn't really change the game plan until we were about third quarter, maybe halfway through the third quarter. And we decided, hey, let's try to spread the field out and see what happens. Oh, my goodness, Justin Fields is just running all over them. Well, yes, these are things we should have been doing in the second quarter. Not down 17-0 halfway through the third quarter. Come on, guys. But I'm sure a lot of this just has something to do with we don't trust our wide receiver group. I feel like we're backed into a corner to where you either overpay for a guy prior to the trade deadline, or you ride this thing out and just pray that something good happens. That magically Van Jefferson becomes an NFL receiver. That magically Calvin Austin grows like 3 inches and gains about 40 pounds. Maybe that your third-round rookie actually gets a helmet and comes onto the field and does something with it. Should that be a bigger topic of conversation right now? The fact that as bad as this wide receiver room is, we still can't find a way to get Roman Wilson a helmet. I understand the special teams math and this and that. And I think I said this yesterday. I'd be perfectly fine with like freaking Ryan McCullough running on punt gunner if it means we get somebody serviceable wide receiver on this team. Like I would literally sacrifice anything to get a second wide receiver who can actually make plays. Because I'm sorry, but in the NFL, the offense still wins games. You can have a dominant defense, but you've got to score. And you've got to have somebody who can be a threat to help your other players, like George Pickens, like Najee Harris. Take some pressure off of this offensive line by getting 8 guys out of the box. Maybe 6 or 7 guys are in the box because you're spreading the field out. Or maybe they just actually have to respect somebody on the outside. I have, this has been ugly. Yes, Calvin Austin had a really nice game against LA. He did. There's no doubt about it. But look position-wise where they were putting him. In breaking routes down the seam on a 3rd and 15, where Justin found him open. Great read, great throw, great catch and stride, great play design to get him in that position. And then guess what? They ran him down the seam from the other side on a post route where he catches the ball in stride and just outruns everyone to the end zone. I mean, those are the plays Calvin Austin should be really good at. And honestly, I think you could put this guy on the outside once in a while in 2 wide receivers sets when we're going to try to throw the ball, and even send him on some go routes down that sideline. Maybe get these guys out of cover 1 and make them run more cover 2. I think it was pretty clear the Chargers were running more cover 2, and they found out Justin could beat it. And they couldn't stop the run game effectively. So the Colts brought in more of an 8 guy in the box look to shut down the run and make Justin be a pure passer. And we waited way too long. And the defense was not dominant. And I think we just waited on the defense all game long to make that splash play that just never came. Sure, we almost had one on the strip fumble when Richardson took off, but we didn't recover it. But in this day and age, you can't rely on the defense to bail out your offense. Sometimes the offense has to bail out the defense a little bit and take some of the pressure off of them. I just think that it's abundantly clear that there is now a blueprint on how to shut down this Pittsburgh Steelers offense. It's called stop anybody from running the football. And continue to load the box as long as we're going to run out 2, 3, or even 4 tight ends. And until somebody in that tight end room can flat out run their linebackers, which I don't think we have, there's no reason to back off. For all the things that Pat Freiermuth does well, he's not fast. He's slow. Unless a linebacker bites down on a play action fake, Pat's not getting behind people. He's just good at getting open and using his body. He kind of boxes guys out. He's good at finding openings in zones. He had a fine game last game. I mean, he had 57 yards and a touchdown on, I think, seven catches. I mean, that's fine. That's not wide receiver 2 so far in the season. I don't think he's put up wide receiver 2 type numbers. And that's what we're asking of him. I was more optimistic that this wide receiver room would do a little bit more than what it's done so far going into the season. I just thought they would find ways to get open. But I mean, I'm sorry. If they're man up on any corner in the league right now, these guys just can't get open. And it's shocking to me as quick and as fast as Calvin Austin is. He just cannot get open. I mean, his speed does not translate to his route running. I know they talked about how much he improved and he worked on it so much in the offseason, and it's not showing yet. It's just not there. He's still a downfield guy. I mean, he's made a couple of nice catches on the sideline on out routes. He actually made a pretty nice catch on that the curl he ran and kind of sat down in the zone, and Justin hit him right out of the break. We're just not seeing it consistently enough. I don't see what Van Jefferson even brings to this football team at this point. I don't think he's a good blocker. He's a horrible receiver. I'm not sure why at this point in this juncture we're even sticking with him as a wide receiver 2 option as opposed to just throwing Roman Wilson out there and see what you got. It's not a popular opinion because I know, he's working his way back. He wasn't very good before he got hurt, and, now he's trying to play catch up, and it's tough to get a rookie in there in that situation. He's a 3rd-round freaking pick. I'm sorry, but those are guys you're drafting to start. 3rd-round picks should be starters on your team. Most 4th-round picks outside of offensive linemen are guys you're looking at as either starters now or potential starters in a year or 2. 3rd-round picks, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd-round picks should all be starters on your offense. And it's incredible to me that this guy still cannot get a helmet. This is kind of concerning. I'm just saying it's kind of concerning. So let's see what another week of practice does. Let's see if we can get this guy a helmet. Because George Pickens needs some help. Pat Freiermuth needs some help. The run game needs a receiving threat so that they can get help, because this offensive line is in shambles right now. And I'm telling you right now, if you think it's going to get better, Isaac Seumalo can't be your savior, because all you're doing is removing James Daniels from the equation, putting Isaac Seumalo into the equation, which I think James Daniels is good enough to be considered pretty close to being the type of player that Isaac Seumalo is. So you're kind of drawing even there. And then you still got Mason McCormick, who's now going to move from left to right. He's never played right guard. We can't make a trade soon enough. I'm just telling you right now, we cannot make a trade soon enough. The problem is, I don't know who's out there. I don't know what contract we're going to take on. I don't know what kind of an overpay we're going to look to do. I know Omar Khan's not going to get desperate and pay more than what it's worth, or he would have done that with Ayuk. Let me know what you think. Who would your trade targets be? What compensation are you willing to give up? Do you think this team will be okay without a wide receiver too? Because there's still people who truly believe that. I think they're insane. But let me know your thoughts. As always, like, share, subscribe, hit the notification bell so you can get notified anytime my stuff comes up, go lives. We will be live tomorrow. We're going regular every Wednesday and Friday at 8 p.m. Me and Colin. Thanks for listening. Hope you all have a great Tuesday.